Buenos dias, buenos tardes. Good evening, everybody. It's your main man, Shannon. Welcome to the Car Chronicles, the road trip. And today in the car with us, we got a leader, an activist, a maker of men, a coach, powerful young men in the community, our good friend, Coach Dayshawn Horton. Dayshawn, welcome to the car today on the road trip. How you doing today?
Yes, sir. I'm good, man. How are you?
You know what? It's a blessing. Many of you guys don't know. So Dayshawn coaches. He is the lead assistant at Mary Star to Sea High School. Good dude. Real good dude. And, there's some things I wanted to talk about today. But before we start, Deshaun, why don't you tell the good people about yourself?
Oh man. So, been at Mary Star now since we've talked about Mary Star for this is my third year. Before that, I was coaching at Lakewood High School as a freshman assistant. I got started real early. I started coaching at 19 years old, real early. Didn't have the best high school career. So once I finished playing, took about a couple years off, and one of my friends ended up coaching, and I just kind of fell in love with it. So I've been doing this since. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. I'm in school still, working to be a PE teacher. So I'm having fun with it. Yeah, it's just real. It's been a journey.
So you've talked about wanting, being in school still and, and working to be a
Yes,
PE
sir.
teacher. Talk about how, life as a coach is in basketball has kind of helped shaped you as a leader.
Oh, for sure, man. Basketball is a huge reason why I am who I am. Even just going back to my playing days, like all the stuff that I ask of players. Like you don't realize how important it is when you're playing. But now that I coach and I'm asking those guys to do it, it's so important. Like communication, just getting out of your shell, pushing yourself every practice. So all of those habits, it not only helps me in school, it also helps me in the work area. It also helps me just in life in general. So yeah, it's definitely you can definitely relate it to life. How you do anything is how you do everything. So the way that you carry yourself as a coach is probably going to be the way that you carry yourself in life. So being able to
Now,
have
it's interesting though because you said that how what you do that and work too, and many don't know you. I think you work in like a home for troubled young men.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, I work in a group home, DCFS, Direct Child Care Services for homeless teenagers. So yeah, I do that overnight, Wednesday to Saturdays. So yeah, I mean it's a grind of what I do. So there's definitely some crazy incidents that happen, but for me, I just try my best to show those young teenage boys a different type of lifestyle, different type of dialogue with them. A lot of those kids unfortunately have to grow up really fast. And there's some kids that we're not able to necessarily save or help because they just, they don't know how to receive a love or receive, something different. But, my job in there is just to try to, take care of the kids, try to do my best to kind of relay the same messages that I give to my guys in basketball, just helping them in any way that I can. But yeah, it's been really fun working there too. I've been there for about a year and a half, so I'm enjoying that as well.
Now, part of the stuff we do with Helping Hands Giving Hope is we deal with it started off being, the homeless and, dealing with our homeless community, but now it's just anyone that's underserved, and that's
Yeah,
kind of a passion of mine. Um, and to hear you talk about that piece of it, because I think that's the coaching piece of it is great of what you do, but it's
yeah.
the other piece that's really touching the future. I want you to talk a little bit about what you're seeing in the young men of today.
Well, for me, it's always been bigger than basketball. For me, it's about preparing you for life. Like as you know, I'm a big Duke basketball fan. So the reason why, one of the reasons why I love Duke so much is because when they recruit players, they don't recruit players and emphasize the national championships or anything like those things are good. But especially when Coach K was there, his emphasis was he wants to prepare you for life. So when you leave here, you're set and you're prepared. So for me with coaching, there's definitely a lot of life lessons that it is, whether it's getting out of your shell, whether it's getting uncomfortable, whether it's kind of understanding the importance of consistency. So there's so many life lessons when it comes to basketball, and you have to realize most kids aren't going to make it to the next level. So if we're just focusing on basketball and then they go out and, they're not good citizens, they're not good husbands, they're not good brothers or cousins, then we're doing them a disservice. So it's our job to, prepare these young men to be able to be the great, husband, great fathers, and to really be good citizens, because most of them are going to be, going to school after or working a regular job, and they need to be prepared for that. So for me, that's what I look at it as. I'm trying to prepare these kids for life.
No, I think we were lucky because we had a chance to have you coach our son last year
Yes,
at the JV level before he got kicked up to varsity.
yes,
And
sir.
one thing you would always talk to him is the fact that you believed in him. Hey, I believe in you. Just go out and follow the game
Mhm.
plan. I believe in you. Follow the game plan. I believe in you.
Yes,
And
sir.
what I take from what you're saying is a lot of kids don't have the game plan.
Yeah, they don't understand. And for me, when I was growing up, I didn't understand. Like a lot of kids don't understand how hard it is to make it to the next level. Like, they say they want to play Division 1, but they don't really have the real understanding of what it takes. So for me, I've been the kid who was underdeveloped going into high school,
Mhm.
even in middle school. I wasn't the best kid. So, for me, I don't want kids to feel like they make one mistake and they get pulled out. I want them to be able to have the full confidence to go out there and make a mistake, and I can just kind of coach you and teach you through it. So for little Shannon, like we talked about, when he was at ACE, a lot of what he was doing was being a great defender, being a great rebounder, a great hustle guy. But for me, it's played a completely different role. Like now you're the first, second, third option, a top 3 option on the offense. I'm asking you to do different things. So for him, he needs to be able to believe that he can do it first. So I understand that it's going to come with some mistakes. There's definitely going to be some times where I got to chew them out a little bit, but that doesn't mean anything. It's all out of love, and I'm always about developing and getting this. But over time, he got a lot better with it. He was able to get to that basket a little bit. He got a lot more confident in that 3. And then over the summer, we got a lot of skill work in, and now he's making an impact on varsity. So I'm super happy with little Shannon, and his father has been doing a great job with him as well. So just so
And
you know, you were
no,
doing a great
well,
job with
I appreciate that.
this.
A
Yes,
lot
sir.
of y'all don't know. Yeah, because in that realm they call him Little Shannon because I'm Big Shannon.
Yes,
Apparently
sir.
I'm big, and I was told last night he can never be Big Shannon. He'll just always be Little Shannon. Maybe
Yeah,
one day he'll be Little Big Shannon. I don't know.
he'll always be Big Shannon. That's your title. Yeah, yes, sir. You
But
earned that.
as we look at, we were talking about this. Shannon Jr. and I were talking about this recently. We were talking about somebody asked him once, do you think you'll ever make it to the NBA? And he was like, "There's 40 NBA jobs.
Mhm.
Like, there's 40."
No, yeah,
And he was
well,
like, "And there's
400. That's it.
well 40 new a year. I mean,
Oh,
like,
yeah, for sure,
so,
for sure.
so he was saying if there's 40 new a year and there's thousands of kids, he was like, how about I
Mhm.
just go to school and be a good student and
Yeah,
use basketball as a tool to get me to be a good student?"
yeah,
And I was like, wow, when we start looking at our young men, I always question, I always look at what you do, what our head coach does. Um, as you guys are always preparing kids for all right, this is what we got to do today with it, and it's going to be different at the next level if you
yeah,
choose to go to the next level. And
yeah.
what I want to talk about is because we oftentimes talk about the speed of the game, right? That I asked Shannon that the other day. I said, "What do you think is the biggest difference?" Now you're on varsity full time. He was like, "Well, the speed of the game is different." And
Yeah.
he says, he had a chance to run with you guys and run with some of the guys on the Sunday runs, and he was like, some of those guys play Division 1, some play overseas. He was like, it's mind blowing how much faster
Mhm.
that game is,
Yeah.
and how they see the game, and how he was like, even at the community college level, playing with guys that how much faster how they see the game versus how I see it,
Hmm.
and he was like, so as you look at the state of youth basketball today, where do you think it's going?
I really, for me personally, especially in America, I don't like it. I really don't. I think that a lot of it is it really about development, and a part of it is the social media aspect. Like I really think social media is just really doing a terrible job of showcasing what real basketball looks like, because it's not exciting. Like when you watch guys drive and kick, make the right play over and over, it's not really exciting. Like you see the ballers' lives and overtimes of the world. They're showing the crossovers, they're showing the tween, hezzy, they're showing the dunks, the lobs, but they're not. That's 5% of the game. I always say that to kids. The 95% of the game is the fundamentals, making the right play, boxing out, getting rebounds, get into jump stops, making the right decision. Like that's the bulk of it. But for kids growing up, they don't see that. So they don't really understand it until you have to get to high school and you get with me or you get with Coach Marquise. And now we're trying to change your thinking of it. But for the small percentage of coaches that do understand that it's our job to show them the real side of basketball, I think that is really good. But I think for the bulk of it, it's very, very unbalanced. A lot of kids that they don't understand what real basketball looks like. So it's very, very frustrating for me personally because I
Do you
don't
think
like it.
that's all kids, or you think that's primarily kids that look like me and you?
Oh, definitely kids that look like it. Just kids in America. I think kids overseas, like you can just tell. Like if you look at just look at the NBA. You look at a kid like Luka Doncic, Nikola Jokic, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Like these guys came into the NBA fundamentally sound and constantly making the right play. Yeah, maybe Luka be a little bit, ball hogging or something a couple times, but for the most part, these guys are high IQ players. And it's obviously a different spectrum. Like they get to go pro very early, but I just think in America, our priorities are different. And, especially like I said, with the media, I think their job is to make money. So, the more views that they can get with the lobs and the crossovers, that puts more money into their pockets. But in the same time, while you're making more money, you're losing the dignity of real basketball. And you're not really showcasing a good brand of what this really looks like. So,
I was listening to the old Mavs owner Mark Cuban. He was talking about this on some podcast he was on, and he was saying that in Europe, he was like they're playing one time a week. They're practicing 3 to 4 days a week. He was like,
yeah,
here in America, we're playing 3 or 4 games in a weekend, practicing once a week.
yeah, yep,
And so, to hear you say that, it made me think. I went to a state playoff game last year after CIF's a state playoff game, and
okay,
I watched these kids, and I was like, man, it's almost like they didn't understand the concept of the basketball they were playing. They were an extremely athletic team. My daughter was 11, and she kept saying, "Hey, why are they trying to outshoot the unathletic shooting team?
mm-hmm,
Like, why would you do that? Why not, you know, play high low or run them off screens and
yeah, get
take advantage of
downhill,
them? You're going downhill."
yeah,
And I was
yeah.
like, it was. I was trying to figure out like why didn't the coach even get that?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Like, I just feel like there's no real, you have to be, especially when you're in playoffs, like you said, like, there's definitely, different, concepts that you have to use, different strategic, advantages that you want to try and expose. But, it's just about being in the right situation to where you have, that staff that really, looks at it from that angle. There's a difference between hooping and playing basketball. Sometimes it's necessary to hoop. That's a little more freelance. You kind of just make, instinctual reads, but playing basketball is where, I really enjoy it. And playing basketball is about making reads, finding those disadvantages or finding those advantages, creating those mismatches and things in that nature. So yeah, it's something that needs to be worked on, but it's hard with the social media era right that we're in.
You said something that made me think. You said something about like Giannis, or I was listening to some sports show where they were talking about the hip hop culture's impact on the modern, current day American born black player, and I was like, and I was like, they were like, GMs are much more willing, and even college coaches are much more willing to take the chance on like a SGA or a Joel Embiid or Dylan Brooks or
Yeah.
Giannis. These guys that they don't have the heaviness of the hip hop culture.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't have to worry about them like Ja, flashing guns on a live stream or something like that. You
Yeah.
don't have to worry about them doing the stupid stuff or like a James Harden. Who does he hang out with? Baby or
Yeah,
one of the
little
babies.
baby club in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And so when you start looking at stuff like that, you're like, oh man, what's the impact of this culture
Mm-hmm.
on the game of basketball as we see it,
Yeah.
and what are you seeing as a coach?
Yeah, no, I think it's definitely a way you want to represent yourself. It's definitely, there's a two-way street to it. For me, I even struggled with it earlier. Like I remember my first year at Lakewood High School, I dyed my hair blonde, and all the coaches were upset. They're like, like you can't do that because you walk into a room with other coaches, they're not gonna look at you, not gonna take you serious and stuff like that. So, after season I cut it off and stuff. But like, I think that, if this is something that you aspire to do, especially at a very high level, there's definitely a certain way that you have to represent yourself. And you can't, like you say, you can't be flashing guns, you can't be posting cuss words on Instagram or Twitter, and you can't, you just can't. It's a certain way you have to represent yourself because these things are a business at the next level, especially with college now with the NIL, definitely overseas pros, like, everything is a business. So if you're messing up their business, you're making their image look bad, they will find someone else and they will get rid of you. So it's definitely very important that you represent yourself in the best way possible while also still trying your best to be yourself. You don't want to feel like a robot, but you definitely, need to limit it. Like for me, like I said, if it was up to me, I would like to dye my hair, like, and do all type of stuff, but I'm a coach, so I have to represent myself. I got to make sure I look neat, and so I got to make sure, I'm doing the right thing as well. So, yeah.
Now, as you look at, and you just said you're a coach, and it made me think about this because again, I mean, yeah, I look at basketball different from a parent perspective. Like I
Yeah.
don't have, I mean, and you can attest to this. I don't have conversations with the coaches about who's playing, how much my kid's playing, or what we're doing. Because that's not my role. My role is to drive the kid there and support and rah rah, work the scoreboard, or do what you need me to do.
Yeah.
What role do you see parents playing in basketball as in basketball development of today's youth?
So do you mean like what are they playing right now, or what should they be?
Both.
I think, I mean, like like you said, there's definitely some, what they are is definitely mixed. There's definitely some great parents like you that just allow their kid to be coached. There's definitely some overbearing helicopter kind of parents that are yelling at you in the car for every little mistake you made in the game. But what I think it should be, I think everybody should aspire to be a parent like you. I believe that it takes a village to raise a child. So, I think that when you drop your kid off to Mary Star for those 2 hours, you're allowing us to essentially play a part in Shannon's development as a young man. So you allow us to do that. And I think that for parents, you have to be able to allow your coaches to, raise your kid and to teach them different lessons that maybe they won't understand at home. So I think that every parent should, be a parent, have fun, cheer your son on. I'm not saying, if you're looking at it from an effort perspective, and you don't see them going hard, you don't see them doing the little things, 100% yell at them, get on them. But if they're just missing some shots, if they're not doing those reward type of things, I don't think there's nothing that you should say other than, you got it next time. But focus on the process, like what makes a good player, the working hard, the making sure you communicating on the court, doing those things. But I think you just allow a coach to do that. And, as a parent, your best suit is to probably just play support and, kick them in the butt a little bit every now and then. But for the most part, they don't want to get yelled at the coach and then still have to go home and get yelled at by you. It's a little bit, they can get burned out. Burnout is a very real thing in basketball. I've seen it with some of the guys that I grew up playing basketball with. So yeah, it's a very tough thing when you have to deal with that all the time.
Now, you made the transition from coaching at a young age in a public school, an extremely large public school, to now
Yes.
a smaller private school, but under the tutelage of like a really good basketball mind. What's been
Yeah.
the toughest part of that kind of transition from a public school to a private school? Or talk about, first off, I'm asked that you talk about some of the things that you see as a coach of a public school.
Well, the enrollment, obviously, like you said, the enrollment is way different. When I was at Lakewood, I mean, there were so many kids. Like it was an issue to see who was gonna be on the team because we had so many kids. Obviously, this year our enrollment has got up, but the first 2 years at Mary Star was very, very. We only had 2 levels, just JV and varsity. You know, I've never had that. We at Lakewood it was freshman, sophomore, JV, and varsity. So it was 4 levels with like 12 to 15 kids every level. So you just look at it from that perspective. You know, it was a lot more enrollment, and then obviously the practice time. We had 2 gyms at Lakewood, so you know the varsity can be in one gym, and the JV can be in that gym, and then the freshman can be in the small gym. Mary Star, you know, it's a private school. You know, they don't, you know, they have to build up that money to be able to get another gym. So I would say, you know, the finances is obviously a lot different. The enrollment is a lot different. And just the amount of kids that you get, you know, it's definitely a two-edged sword, but you know,
Does coaching change and the type of kid change?
of course, yeah. Like I mean, at Lakewood, you can cuss. You know, you can yell at kids. You know, I bet. Look, we can start with the Mary Star thing. Mary Star, obviously, for the viewers that don't know, it's a Catholic school, so you can't cuss. You know, I'm not trying to cuss, but I do think sometimes it's necessary. You know, sometimes. But yeah, Mary Star, obviously, you can't cuss. You know, you have to. You know, you have to represent yourself a certain way, like we talked about earlier. You know, at Lakewood, you can be a little bit more loose. You can probably chew out a kid a little bit more, you know, and you get a little more leeway in the public school. Private school is very, very, you know, kind of short leash, you know, very limited. But, you know, both of them have their own challenges, but they have both pros and cons with both. So I enjoy the aspect of both, you know.
Now that transition to a Catholic school, and
Yeah.
now you're not just a coach, but you're a head coach of a JV program.
Yeah.
You know, how'd you make that transition to now I'm a head coach of a JV program. I'm responsible for, you know, how we run practices and plays and substitutions. You know, what was your mindset? How'd you prepare for that?
Oh man, so it literally it started at Lakewood. You know there's so much work that I've put into coaching that has not been seen. You know, whether it's watching film, whether it's watching a guy like App, from Dominguez, Coach Apple from Dominguez, work guys out and him teaching me. Whether it was Coach Marquise before he even offered me the job at Mary Star, watching him train his guys and just watching and learning. So I was already kind of, so after my 3rd year, I was already planning on leaving. The plan was to go just to enjoy that 4th year, because all the guys that I coached from freshmen were now seniors. So I felt like, I was going to stay there one more year and I was going to leave. At first, it was going to be to Dominguez. A lot of people don't know this, but me and App had, that's my guy. He's the head coach at Dominguez High, but I was going to go coach with him. I didn't know what level, but I definitely, he definitely was interested in me. Obviously, we had a great relationship. I've been knowing him since I was playing. So I told him, like, I do want to leave Lakewood. I want to do something different. So he was like, man, like, you can come over here, help me out. And because, he needed some help with the staff and stuff like that. But,
And real quick, many people don't know about Coach Apple at Dominguez because I think he coached for Compton Magic also.
yes, sir.
Um,
Yes,
he
sir.
was like, I'm a few years older than him, so I think he graduated in like '02, and
Something
he was,
around there. Yeah, something
yeah,
like
he was like one of the top rated point guards in the state
yeah,
that
nah,
year.
he was good. He was good. Yeah, he
And
played
I think,
overseas and everything.
yeah, and he's coached some extremely good players that have come out of Dominguez. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I think when you start looking at, I mean, I'm a Compton native, right? So when you start looking at
Sure.
Compton sports, you had
Mm-hmm.
some heavy hitters come out of Dominguez.
Yeah.
I think Tyson Chandler, Tayshawn Prince,
Mm-hmm.
Richard Sherman, who I've mentioned before, his parents lived around the corner from me for a long period of time.
Yeah.
So you've had some. Brandon Jennings went to Dominguez before I think he then left and went to Oak Hill. So
Mm-hmm.
that program is pretty rich over there.
Yeah, it is. He's done a great job. What I mean, like he's been there, for a while now, and he's been a huge help for me. So me and him had a great connection. Obviously before I even started coaching, but when I first started coaching, he was like the first introduction to me. He gave me the game, taught me a lot about training, taught me a lot about coaching and stuff like that. So I was already feeling comfortable enough to want to go and coach for him. But I met Keith through him. So,
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah. So when COVID hit, nobody had gyms. So we used to go to Champion Sports Facility out in Carson. So when he was training, I would help him train, and stuff like that. And Coach Marquise, we would end up playing like every Monday and Wednesday. It'd be like a 4-on-4. So it'd be like it'd be like Keys and like two other guys versus like me and my friends. So we'll always play like every Monday and Wednesday. We would play against each other. So like how ironic, like like I would just kind of like ask questions a little bit to Keys. I didn't really know him that well, but I would just kind of like pick his brain every now and then, and I would see him train like his guys, and I would kind of ask him questions every now and then. But there was one day that I seen him at the map. I was going to go help out and play in one of Absado League games that Keith was going to. And I got there a little early, and Keith was sitting down. And I remember like sitting down next to him. And, he was I was asking like, how are you doing? Like, he's like, good, I'm trying to get I left Mater Dei because he was coaching at Mater Dei, assistant coaching for 7 years. So it's crazy. Like I asked him like, like where you think about going? He said he got some options. Didn't tell me it was Mary Star. He was like, he got some stuff boiling. He didn't want to tell me. So that day, like I just asked him, like, like what, like if you do get a head coaching job, like what would be like your standards? What would be, so he read me about all the accountability, the effort, discipline, energy, like
effort, discipline.
He was like, he had it in his phone, like so. He was just already kind of giving me like a a game plan of how he wanted to attack a varsity team. And it's crazy because subconsciously I didn't even realize like, dang, I'm gonna be coaching for him one day, like But yeah, then like a week later, I was talking to App one day and he was like, expect the phone call, like just expect the phone call. And then I seen Keith like the next day at Dominguez Hills because I was going to train one of my Lakewood kids. He sat right next to me. He's like, like you should come coach with me. I got the job at Mary Star High School. And I'm like, dang, for real? Like, so I took about we talked a little bit, got to exchange numbers. And then, it took me about a week, but yeah, I was like, man, I got to go. So to answer your question, sorry, I'm rambling, but
No.
It's been great. Since I made the decision to leave Lakewood, it's been great. The first year was just all varsity. So I was, just assistant varsity. And then last year, which was, Shannon's freshman year, that was my first year coaching JV. That was my first time ever head coaching. But, I had been assistant for 4 years. So it was, we all learned together. Like I learned with them, you know what I mean? Like, so it was a great experience. I enjoyed it. I think I'm going into this second year, heading to JV and assistant VAR. I think having that year under my belt and also head coaching AAU for the first time this summer really is going to help me. So I've been enjoying it. I've been developing a lot. Keith has been great for me. App has been great for me, and multiple other people. So I've been enjoying it. It's really fun.
And I'm gonna put a pin in your AAU transition but you said something that made me think because you were talking about the idea of number one, the idea of growth, but also the idea of having a mentor. I mean, so I think those of you that are listening, I think he's putting you up on game on the importance of having a
Yeah.
mentor that you can trust, a mentor that is going to give you solid insight,
Mm-hmm.
but also the importance of relationships.
Mm-hmm.
I think we discount greatly the importance of relationships because
Mm-hmm.
if you think about it, uh, so you met Marquise through App.
Yeah.
Marquise and App, I think they played together for a year.
Yeah. They grew up together. Yep.
Yeah,
Mhm.
App's from Compton. I'm from Compton. Marquise played at
They went,
Compton.
they went to Compton High together.
All three of them were coached by Jared Lloyd, the guy that's in charge of HCE, where Shannon and Ava play.
Yes, sir. Yep.
And just like Marquise came to you, that's how we got to Mary Star. He came to me and goes, "Hey, where you guys gonna go for high school?" I said, "I don't know. We homeschool now, and it's just been something we've been worried about, just trying to figure it out." And he was like, "Well, he can just come to Mary Star." Hey, you need to
Mm-hmm.
see game film or anything like that? No, I've seen him play. I'm at every practice because he would come up because his kid played. So he would be like, "All right," we shake hands. "All right, call the school and you can work it out."
Yeah.
I mean, and so it shows the importance of maintaining relationships,
Uh,
presenting yourself in a way where people would want to work with you, and then
yeah.
being willing to listen because I think the importance of all of this is people have walked your path where you've walked, where you're walking, and then where you're gonna walk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
it's so
so,
important. Yeah, because like you said, like I was talking to Keys for probably like a year before I even got the job, and I could have just been like an a-hole. I could have just been saying stuff that he probably didn't like, and he'd have probably got that job and be like, ah, nah, I can't get Day. Like he's not what I'm looking for. But I think the fact that I was always representing myself the right way, asking him the right questions, giving him my respect, you know what I mean, and shaking his hand like a man, stuff like that. I think he already seen like I'm a different type of guy. So, but like you said, to relationships, man, and having a mentor is big. Like from Coach Hurd, who I coached with at Lakewood, he gave me the foundation. Then to App, then to Keys, then to my guy Ruben Williams, who's out there coaching at University of Montana right now as an assistant coach. Like I've had a plethora of people who have really helped me, and I'm really grateful for it. Even a guy like you've been able to really help me. Sending the motivational videos, and it's very very inspiring. Like to have people that truly do believe in you and truly want to see you grow. It's always a blessing. So I'm super grateful for it.
now, as you look at the last year's JV team, I think no one ever talks about the fact that a lot of those kids hadn't played sports before. So it's almost like you're building something with the bad news bears. And so you're having to teach them, number one, the idea of competition,
Yeah.
the idea of listening and paying attention to, but also, I mean, I think the idea of understanding roles as a leader.
Yeah.
In the road trip, we always talk about embracing, empowering, and encouraging. And one piece of that is understanding, roles that people play. And I think I had never thought about that when you approached me and Shannon Jr. about it last year, about the fact that okay, now his role is going to be different. Before and travel, he did this, this, and this, but now he
Yeah.
needs to do this along with being the captain of a team to
Hmm.
speak to guys that may be older than him and may have older in years but maybe not have more experience than him on the basketball court. Talk to me about some of that, about using your leadership to make leaders out of others, because you're having to do it again with this year, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken.
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, to be quite frank, I'm struggling to find out who can be my leaders. Like last year, obviously I had Shannon. So I felt like Shannon had a really good, basketball mind. He had an aspiration to want to learn. So I like kids that truly want to learn and ask questions and stuff like that. You had a kid like Ben Coughlin, who was a sophomore, who had a pretty solid freshman year, and I felt like was ready to kind of take the turn. So, he was he was the first captain, from day one. He's the one who really set the tone. So, when we were doing sprints, when we were doing layups, when we were doing our defensive drills, like I'm pushing him before anybody, and then Shannon quickly carried it on and brought that same energy. So now he's the second captain. So, when you're a captain, you're held to a higher standard, because if you want to change any culture, it starts with the top guys. It's very hard to make the 12th guy work hard if they don't see the number one or number two guy. So that's why you may see me on the sideline yelling at Shannon or Ben Coughlin, or in the halftime, and I'm on those guys' head, because you guys are the head honchos. It starts with you guys. There's been times where I just had a meeting with just the captains. The rest of you guys stay right here, and I'm just on them, because it's their job to carry the weight. It's their job to be an extension of what I am. I'm not the one playing. You guys are. So it's very, very important that you're kind of echoing the same things that I'm saying. So yeah, it starts with the leaders. And then once you go there, you have to still, push everybody. And it really just starts with the relationships, building a relationship with every single kid, really getting to know them, and figuring out what they want to do. Like I knew Shannon really wanted to play basketball. I knew Ben Coughlin really had an aspiration to really play basketball and get better. And then Ben Deliva, he showed me later, which was our third captain, that he has a little fight to him. He has a little competitiveness to him. He came into a couple of those half times saying stuff before I even did. I'm like, oh, okay. Coach said we need to do this. Coach said we need to do that. Let's make sure we do it. I'm like, okay, I like that. So it was really fun, But this year I
Now,
got to find a leader. But yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
when you think about that,
Yeah,
here's because you said something earlier again, and not to cut you off, but you said this, and I don't want to forget it. Now that you're coaching the AAU on the AAU side of the fence,
Yeah.
how has that completely changed basketball, youth basketball as we see it?
Oh man, like we talked about earlier. I mean, we practiced twice a week for about an hour and a half. You know, so it's really hard, like to get. And my guys were like developmental guys, you know, which is not a problem. I don't mind coaching developmental guys, but you know, for those kids, you know, it's you need a lot more. So it was a struggle. It was honestly a struggle for me because I've never coached a like I've assisted it. I've helped out a little bit like for 1 year when I first started coaching, but it was really hard because I'm so used to 2 hour practices 5 days a week, sometimes 6 days a week, and then we play one game or two games. Now it's
Right.
a completely different. You know, you may play 4 or 5, sometimes even 6 games in a weekend, and you only have 3 hours worth of practice to prepare for that. You know, so you gotta think about defensive drills. You got to think about offensive concepts in a man and in a zone. Then you got to think about sideline out of bounds plays. Then you got to think about baseline out of bounds plays. So I mean, it was definitely tough, but I think going into next year, now I understand how fast paced it is. So I think that I can kind of accelerate those kids' growth a little bit more.
And it goes back to what you said earlier about the lack of development, possibly for some.
Yeah.
I think I think the benefit that we had with a lot of these HCE kids, the other group that they play in, is that they play together already. So you
Yeah.
had, Shannon and Ethan, one of his other teammates. They had played together since 12U. Like I don't ever think they've ever played a basketball game apart from each other. Like their
Uh-huh.
sisters have done the same thing, but then they bring Ben in the mix.
Uh-huh.
They all three of them now they've played together. And so like guys are, it's now taking basketball from being just a seasonal thing to all
Full
year
time.
round pretty much.
Yeah, and it should be, in my opinion. Like I think once you get around like eighth grade, like you have to be able to pick a sport and like really get after it. It's very rare that you can see a kid that be really good, like really good as far as taking it to the next level at two different sports. You gotta be your measurements have to be different. Like your athleticism has to be out of this world. But for the most part, like I said, 90% of the kids you need to pick one sport by about eighth grade and really just say, I'm gonna fully commit to this and give it my everything. And if you can find that decision earlier, that's even better. So, but yeah, like some kids, like you said, like they're choosing to start taking basketball serious in ninth grade. That's way too late,
Right.
way too late, man. Like,
Everybody else
there's
been playing since fifth grade at a competitive
yeah,
level.
yeah, like literally fifth grade, some even earlier, third grade, second grade. Like, so I'm teaching ninth graders what I would teach a fifth grader, pivots, rips, cross steps,
Yeah.
jabs, how to
Drop
step to
steps.
the ball. Like, yeah, so it gets in. I mean, it's a good challenge for me personally. Like, I'm very. One thing I love about basketball is it's problem solving. I love problem solving. So, I love constantly, that's the fun part about basketball. It never gets boring for me because there's always a new challenge. So, I
But
enjoy
but
it.
like you said, it's you have to get it early on. I
Yeah.
was looking at, my daughter always says this, is that if she sees a girl come to the gym and she
Hmm.
sees her outside, she got her hoop shoes on outside. She
Hmm.
goes, "Oh yeah, she ain't a real hooper, Dad." Like she was like, "It's gonna be barbecue chicken today." She's not a real hooper, right? Watch,
Yeah.
and I'm like,
Uh-huh.
"Huh." So it's like even at that young of an age now, kids are picking it up. They're understanding the expectation, what you need to do.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
look, I mean, I'm an old head. I think kids are definitely extremely athletic and skilled because they work on a lot of skilled stuff. But it's not like it's not a lot of basketball smarts because they're not watching a lot of basketball.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely something you should be doing. Like I said, staying away from watching the highlights and actually going and watching a real college basketball game. You know what I mean? I try to watch college basketball every single week, especially in the summers. I'm watching at least 3 to 4 games a week. So, yeah, just being able to watch it, you see what happens. One dribble pull ups, two dribble pull ups, catch and shoots, floaters, jump stop layups, jump stop driving kicks. It's really basic stuff. Like if you're really good at the basic stuff, you have a chance at playing at the next level. But most
So
kids, their priorities are messed up.
let me ask you this, because on the road trip, we like to empower, encourage, embrace.
Yes, sir.
So, what advice do you have for young people following their passion, young people following their dreams, desiring to be leaders.
If it's any passion, not even without basketball, I would just say fully dive into it. Like try to find as many resources to be able to grow in that aspect. I would definitely encourage young kids to really get to know themselves, like to try different things. It's very, very important that you do try different things. Because, even for me, I didn't really know what I wanted to do until I was 18, 19. But I think that if I could go back, I would have probably tried a couple different things and, expose myself. So, there may be a club that you might look at and be like, that may be boring, but try it. Just see what it is. So understanding yourself is very important. And I think once you understand yourself and what you like and what you truly enjoy, then I think you try to attack that as much as you possibly can. And, understanding that life does go by fast. So, you don't want to sit and think that you have so much time, what I mean? Because, it's a very, very tough thing. So really diving into whatever your passion is and understanding that there's a lot of people that want to do what you do. It doesn't matter what career it is. If you really want to be a chef, trust me, there's a lot of restaurants. There's a lot of different chefs that are going and making their meals every single day. If you want to be the police officer, there's a lot of people who are doing that. So whatever it is that you want to do, be obsessed with it. Like really, really give it your everything. So you can look back one day when you're retired and say, you know what? Like I didn't cheat this process. Like I gave it every single thing that I had. So if that means asking questions about resources, that if that means that, you even, Google it, you do that. But yeah, I would do that for sure. That's the best
Well,
thing.
E40 said, life comes at you fast like a rock hitting the windshield.
It
You don't
does.
know about that because you don't listen to E40, but those of us old heads know. Well, there you have it today, guys. Coach
Yes,
Dayshawn Horton on the
yes,
road
sir.
trip. Dayshawn, thank you for joining us today.
Yep.
That's Dayshawn. I'm Shannon.
I
I love
appreciate
you.
it.
God loves you. Keep living in victory. And until we meet again, see y'all soon. Have a good day, everybody.
Yes, sir. All right, big dog.